if Lamar were here, he would point out that 3 of the 4 sponsors in the Senate are former governors. So I'm going to tell 2 governor stories. The first is the day I left office as governor in 2003, my wife and I and our 2 children left Maine in a 40-foot RV for the next 5.5 months. And on that trip, we essentially circumnavigated America and visited 17 national parks. So that really came through to me emotionally and powerfully how important the parks are to our country and to the people of our country. It's interesting, last year something like 330 million people visited our national parks. That happens to be the entire population of the United States. And in places like Acadia, we've had 3 million visitors, over 3 million visitors. The population of Maine is 1.3 million. So we, in 1 year, we have almost 3 times the population of Maine visiting Acadia National Park. So that's the first governor's story. The second is that every year governors have to go to New York to kiss the ring of the bond rating agencies. That's a ritual where you have to convince them that your debt is going to be repaid and that you're in good shape financially, and therefore you need a AAA or a AA bond rating. And 1 year I was doing this. I was sitting there with one of the bond rating agencies, and I was going through how Maine didn't have much debt. We have a low level of debt, and it's really good, and we pay it off in 10 years. And one of the analysts stopped me and said, "Governor, if you're not fixing things, that's debt. It's exactly like it's debt on your balance sheet. And if you're not fixing it, it's debt." And so what we're doing here is paying down debt. It's not a new expenditure program. This is something that we have a responsibility to do. I'll leave you with one last Maine story. I used to have a garden. I don't have time to have it anymore. My wife runs the garden these days. But I used to borrow a rototiller from my friend Peter Cox. And I learned the basic principle of stewardship from Peter Cox and his rototiller. This is the main rototiller rule. It's all you need to know about environmental protection. When you borrow a rototiller from someone else, you return it in as good shape as you got it with a full tank of gas. We have the planet on loan. We don't own it. We have it for a period of years, and we pass it on to our children and our grandchildren, and we have a responsibility to pass it on in as good a shape as we found it, and with our parks, we're failing that responsibility. And so that's why I think this bill is so important. Bipartisan sponsorship, both houses, administration support. We ought to be able to make this happen, and it will be a great gift to the people of the United States of America. And now I want to introduce my colleague Martin Heinrich from the state of New Mexico, where on that RV trip we went to Bandelier, I can't remember, outside of Santa Fe. We spent a lot of time in the beautiful country of New Mexico, and Martin has been an enormous champion for public lands, for the parks, and for this bill. Senator Martin Heinrich.